Mhm. Hello, and welcome to the Discovery Within podcast, where we explore the depths of self-discovery and personal growth. I'm your host, Coach T.
And I'm your co host, LJ the PeaceMaker. And today, in episode 6 of the Discovery Within podcast, we are going to be taking an in depth look at out with the old, in with the new, the art of letting go. Now, letting go is a constant process, and we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So I know we were talking earlier, and I was just talking about letting go of some of my old perfectionist tendencies. And that's like a constant thing that I have to regulate myself on. And so, what are some of the things that you constantly are confronted with, Coach C?
The same thing. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist, and when you've been doing something for so long, you've been a certain way for so long, it's kind of a challenge to fully let it go. And I just say it's divine timing, honestly, especially with all that's been going on this week. Especially with the eclipse and stuff. I mean, I don't get deep into it and stuff, but I do observe what people are talking about in the world and stuff. And I know with this one, for me, I just feel like it was just a time to let go, because I know a lot of people were saying like they were low on energy, and I was pretty low on energy. And for me, it was like a time for me to just sit back and rest and recharge this week. And all of those things, that I've been holding on to, it allowed me to sit there with myself and, actually go through those things, because all these old emotions and stuff start coming up for you. And I just thought it was ironic, because when we came out with the topic and the title for the episode, I didn't even know that we were in alignment with it, because we had already decided on the topic. And then
Right.
for this week to come, and then it's like, no matter where I'm at, I'm just sitting. I could hear something on TV, or I could hear a random conversation, and it's all around the concept of letting go. So that just let me knew that we was even in alignment with, creating this topic. But for me, letting go of that, my perfectionist tendencies, or I always want everything to be, all my T's to be crossed, all my I's to be dotted, and just learning to go with the flow and let life do what it's supposed to do, because sometimes we can get so caught up in wanting everything to all be in place and have everything all figured out and all be perfect, that we don't even allow ourselves that room to make mistakes and learn and grow, because if everything is all perfect, then there's no room for growth, and there's no room for you to learn. So I've been having to sit on that, and then not only that, just letting go of, self-sabotaging, ways, thoughts, attitudes and stuff. Because this is like a time of, ushering in like new cycles. Because with life and time, it moves in cycles. And it was like a time for me to just sit back and say, do I want to continue with the same old cycle, spending the same old, going in the same old circles, or do I want to, fully step into this new life and where my life is headed? But it's like with that, we need to slow down. Let's pump our brakes first. Let's do a reassessment. Let's do some introspection before we move forward. So I just feel like this is just that time for, not only me, but for, anyone to just, take some time and to just reflect, and before you just jump out and just do. So
Right. I mean, I know we were talking earlier. I was feeling tired, drained this week, really not feeling like I had my get up and go, you know? And so that has been something that's a continuous practice for me, just really letting go of my to do list, of this agenda that I create for myself on a day to day basis. And granted, we do want to make progress, but it's like when we're not feeling up to it, are we going to focus on a to do list, or are we going to listen to our body? Are we going to listen to ourselves? You know, and so that in and of itself is this art of letting go. Let go of all those thoughts that you have of what you're supposed to be doing, what has to get done, you know, and really just let yourself be in the moment and feel how you feel, because sometimes we don't have the energy, we don't have the mental wherewithal, to complete whatever is in front of us or whatever we've scheduled for the day. And it's like we really have to embrace the fact that that's okay. God has a plan, and it's usually not exactly in alignment with what our plans are. You know what I mean? So we got to be willing to let go of whatever it is that we're holding on to so tight. And ultimately, it's like when we have such a tight grip on anything, whether it be a thought, whether it be a habit, whether it be a plan, it's up to us to really examine ourselves with that, because when we're holding on too tightly to something, it typically is going to result in some kind of disappointment. It means that something is a little bit out of alignment there with us, because everything's subject to change. You know what I mean? So we have to be able to flow with nature and with the natural progression of things, or else we may get hurt. When things are too stiff, they break. So we have to really just be supple and able to just let things go as they come, which obviously is easier said than done. Because I mean, I could
Mhm.
sit here and say that all day, but I know there's points for me where I'm just holding so tight to stuff, or I'm so disappointed because I thought I was going to accomplish this. And, as you were mentioning, this week was really a practice in that. Each
Mhm.
day I was like, listen, as long as I cook these kids dinner, yeah, it was a successful day.
Right.
And I just had to let myself be, because that was all I had. And, really acknowledging that sometimes it's like that, and it's okay. It's really okay. If we're not going to be kind and gentle to ourselves, then who is?
Mhm.
You know? Yes.
I think this thing of, us wanting to be in total control of things. And when like our outside world is not looking how we want it to, that's when we want to, tend to exert all that control, or, the little bit of control that we think we have, when it's not really going exactly how we want to, instead of just allowing ourselves to surrender to what is. Sometimes it's like we can want something to be a certain way so bad that we hold on to all types of beliefs and attitudes, or whatever the case may be, about whatever is going on in our current world, that we don't even see the greatness in surrendering and letting your life be what it is in the current moment, because where you are now is where you're meant to be. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in where we want to go and the things that we want to do, that we don't fail to realize what we have right there in front of us. We don't know how to be present with what is going on right there. We always want to just jump to, make to change things, but some things we just don't have control over. So when you're letting go of, old habits and stuff like that, I don't know if people realize like the freedoms that come with that, like the pressures that, come up off of you. Because when you release, like when certain emotions come up for you, you could be in a very emotional state. Because I know I was having some emotions this week, and I was like, where did this come from? And like the old me would be so quick to like judge myself being in those emotions, because especially in a world where you're told not to wear your heart on your sleeve, you don't move with your emotions and stuff like that. But it's not the thing of moving with it. It's like, no, you have to allow yourself to feel. And instead of like judging those emotions that were coming up for me, I just sat there and I observed them, like where were they coming from? And then like when you do that introspection and you just, be more mindful of the emotion, you can sit there and assess it and figure out like where it's coming from. And with that, you accept what is. Now with that acceptance, that doesn't mean hold on to it, because now that you
Right.
accept it for what it is in that moment, you can easily let it go. That's not something that you have to hold on to. Because I know me, I'm usually happy, I'm usually chipper, I'm high energy, but you have to allow yourself those moments to, have that downtime, or be in your emotions, because life is like a roller coaster anyway. You're gonna have your
Yeah.
ups and downs, and every day is not gonna be perfect. Everything ain't gonna always be roses. So, on those days, weeks, whatever, when it seems like everything is slow, not much is moving, allow yourself to feel that, because that's about having that balance in your life. Because those downs and stuff, that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It's just a time to, sit and reflect. And I know I was telling you when we were talking earlier, me, I like to, kind of like flow with nature. So I'm an outside woman. I love to be outside. That's like my domain. So as I was going to sit outside to give myself fresh air, with these heavy emotions on me this week, I just observed like nature and stuff. It's like the weather is so unpredictable these days anyway. But like where I'm at, the wind is blowing and stuff. Some days it was cold, and I'm like, I thought it was just spring the other day. But then it just seemed like as I was sitting out there, everything was so still. And so then with that, I was like, okay, I get it. This really feels like a time for stillness because I didn't have much energy to do much. So
Mm,
as I observed, like, because your outside world reflect what's going on in the inside. So instead of me trying to
right.
push myself to go out here and do and be productive and put on for the world, I opened myself, allowed myself that space to just be, to let go of some things and recharge because I know I have things coming up. A new life is being called in, but it's like now that that's right here on the brink, we gonna have to do like a baggage check, a bag check.
Yes.
Let's check this luggage, see what you trying to carry on to this flight because some stuff ain't gonna be able to go. And so I'm just grateful for this time to just sit back and be able to, see what's working, what's not working, what I need to, let be and let stay so that I could, walk into, you know, that new life. And I would say for everybody, like that goes through because it's like cycles. We're gonna always go through this throughout life. So just embrace those moments because when you allow yourself to actually sit with yourself, and I don't mean just be alone because being alone,
Right.
that's something people, they may take pride in, but it's like, no, do you know how to be with yourself when you are alone? Because being with
Right.
yourself means you're fully present with yourself, you're present with your thoughts and everything that's going on within you. So sitting there to allow yourself to sit with the emotions and whatever is troubling you at that moment, that's really profound because once you realize what is no longer serving you, you accept it, you let it go, you get the lesson from whatever you needed, and then that opens your mind up to peace and you get that mental clarity so you'll have clear direction on what's your next step.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, nature is so helpful to us. We could take, notes from nature, the way that nature changes and the cycles and the rhythms. And ultimately, we're part of nature. You know what I mean? In the categorization system of life on earth, we're part of it. We're part of the living beings, as well are the trees and the animals and the plants. And so, just as they engage in the changing of the seasons and hibernation and just the various cycles and rhythms, we too are a part of that. And it's important for us to accept that, to acknowledge, okay, just like some days it's raining, some days it's sunny. Two, with ourselves, some days we're gonna feel like there's a storm a brewing. Other days we're gonna feel like, oh, it's sunny, everything is great. And it doesn't mean that something is wrong because everything is fleeting. This too shall pass. Each
Mhm.
moment is a new moment. You know what I mean? Even as we're sitting here, time is progressing moment by moment by moment. And it's for us to be able to let go of what occurred in one moment to the next moment because each moment is new. And as we're willing to really just let go of so many of the things that we're holding on to, it helps us to embrace this newness. We get to join in the flow of the newness that exists around us. Every moment is new. I just got a new thought, a new idea. Okay, I can try something new. I didn't like the way that worked out. Let me go in a new direction. And so, as we're willing to let go of our old ways, then we can recognize there's newness everywhere. And as
Mhm.
we embrace that, it allows us to begin to thrive as opposed to dragging around the same old stuff. And I mean, ultimately, something that I've come to learn is when stuff is too familiar, it's usually not good for you. Like, and not to say that it's so bad, but if it's familiar, it means you've been doing it for a while or you've been knowing them for a while and they helped to get you to where you are right now. And if you're trying to go somewhere else, then that familiar stuff is part of what's keeping you where you are. You're going to have to re-examine and look at, do those have a place in where I want to go? Will I be able to get there holding on to all this familiar stuff? And the thing is, the familiar is comfortable. You know what I mean? So we want to stay there. We like, oh, I know this. I always did things like this. But to get new results, we got to do something new. So it's like we really do have to be willing to examine ourselves, examine our thoughts, examine the way that we're processing our emotions, and really just create this awareness with regards to ourselves. And just like you were mentioning, it's not about just being alone. It's about being with yourself, looking at yourself, listening to those thoughts that cross your mind. Is that a healthy thought I'm having, or is that me beating myself down? Is this building me up, or is it depleting my energy, behaving in this manner? And as we really become honest with ourselves, we start to develop this awareness of what we do need to let go because it's not to our benefit. So it's like we are able, we got the power, but we do have to be willing to let go. And so oftentimes we think of like material possessions. And yeah, that's part of it. Sometimes we got to let go of possessions, but so much of it is the mindsets, the habits, the way that we're dealing with life. Those are mostly what's keeping us stuck. And as we're able to let go of those things, then we make room for the new things that we're saying that we really want. So it all comes down to, how bad do you really want it? Are you willing to let go of whatever you see is not serving you well so that you can make room for something better? And I know you and I, Coach T, are constantly practicing this. It's like a moment to moment thing. You know what I mean? Moment to moment. And that's how life is lived, moment to moment. So out with the old and in with the new.
Yeah. But you said something when you was talking about familiar. Oh, I can't even say the word. Say it for me, LJ. Familiar.
Familiarity.
Yeah, that I can't. I get tongue tied. So that word, it's like when we're so familiar with our surroundings and the people that we're so used to, it's like this fear comes up of anything beyond that, because this is all you've known. But when it's like time for that newness, it's like, yeah, you got to stretch yourself a little bit. Now you got to open your mind up to all that's on the other side of that. And I can honestly attest to that, because I've been in situations where I would come into contact with certain people, whether it be friendships or through business, and I would develop these close bonds with people. And we've grown together, we learned a lot of things together. But then it came a time where I saw that, what, maybe it's time for me to break this bond and me go elsewhere. And fear came up when it was time to do those things, because it's like, these are my people. Like, I can't imagine myself, like going somewhere without them and, just doing something different, and they're not here on my side. But it's like, sometimes it really takes courage to actually walk away from things and actually let people, places, and things go that no longer serve you. And sometimes that transition can be hard for the average person, especially when they're familiar with their surroundings and stuff, because they feel like, well, if I had my people around me, that's my stability, that's what holds me together. But there comes a time when you have to learn how to stand on your own. And that takes strength, and that takes a lot of courage to be able to, let go of people that you were once close with. Because sometimes, you was only meant to be around these people and in these organizations or whatever, in these groups, where you were supposed to learn something with them, and then everybody's supposed to go their own way, and you got to pave your own way. And we always talk about becoming your own hero. I knew the work that I was doing behind the scenes for myself. I knew I wanted to be the hero in my story, but I was observing that around me, that certain people, they just weren't there at that place where I was. And I had to be okay with that. And I had to learn how to not impose my will upon someone else, because I feel like, they should be moving with me. They should be growing with me. They should see the bigger picture. But it was really just meant for me. Because you can't force your loved ones, your friends, business partners, or nothing like that to, want the same things that you want. You have to figure out what's best for your life. And sometimes what's best for your life does not include those people that you're familiar with. that what
Right.
that new life, that newness that you want may require you to be around new people. And
Yeah.
just to take that courage to take that leap and say, you know what? I don't know what's on the other side of this. I don't know who I'll meet, but I have the courage to go into the wilderness. I have the courage to go into the unknown and explore that for myself. But at first, in order for me to do this, and like you said, when you really want it, you'll do what you need to do to get it. And I know when
Absolutely.
it comes to that newness, new means you got to take out some. You got to take out some old stuff. That's just like
Right.
taking out the trash. And I'm not saying people are trash or nothing like that, but it's,
Sometimes.
I'm not saying people are trash. But it's like you got to empty the trash can in order to
Yes.
make space for you to some new stuff for you to put new stuff in there. It can't hold it.
Yes.
You can't hold anything if you got all this excess stuff around you, and that's how you got to look at your life. And some people may look at that as like a weakness for you to walk away because, especially like when you have situations where you know that you've outgrown it and the people around you, I don't know whether they want to stay complacent or whatever the case may be, but it's time for you to make your exit. And some people may feel
Right.
like you copped out, like you quit, like you gave up on them. But when you're on this self-discovery journey and you're ready to walk into your newness, you're ready to become your own hero, what they think, it has nothing to do with you because your story is just yours. So
Right.
how they may feel about it, how they feel about you moving on to your new life, you letting them go, even if it means letting them go, that's none of your business because sometimes in life, we can people please so much. We can put other people before us at the expense of our own well-being. And when you get
Absolutely.
to that point where you just tired, like you don't even know yourself, like you don't even have no fuel left in your tank because you don't gave and gave and you was there for your people, and it's time for you to stand on your own. It's like now who's giving to you? So now you
Right.
you sacrificed your well-being at these people's expense just to keep them around and keep them happy. But it takes courage for you to be able to let go of any emotion, any beliefs, any attitudes, any people, any location, whatever. If it doesn't serve you and where you're headed, then it takes courage to, walk away from it. And when I say let it go, it doesn't have to be in you can let things go with love. That's how I always
Yes.
say, like with me, I come in with love, I'm gonna leave with love. And with grace, we shall
Right.
move on.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I know for myself, one of the things I've always prided myself on was loyalty. Like this undying, unwavering loyalty that I will hold on till the wheels fall off. I'll never leave you hanging. And like it came to a place where I had to observe that about myself. It was like, hold up. Yeah, you calling this loyalty, but why is it starting to look like foolishness? Like, why does it seem like you holding on to things that are harming you? You know
Yep.
what I mean? You saying you be there to the end, and that's not being reciprocated. And
Ooh,
it's also starting to look like you're being too self sacrificial. To what point? To your own detriment, where I really had to examine myself and ask why, what is this behavior? Granted, I am very loyal. That's one of the things that, I do think is a very, very powerful quality that I possess. However, scripture says don't cast your pearls before swine. You know what I mean? And it goes back to not that we calling people trash or that I'm calling people swine, but certain things are valuable, are precious. So why are we handing them out so freely or giving them where they're not due? You know what I mean? So it's like sometimes we just holding on to people because we've been knowing them, or we're tolerating things because it always been like that. And as we progress and start to grow, we got to really examine ourselves and ask, why are we doing that? because ultimately it's coming from some sort of pain point. You
Yep.
know, for myself, I had to accept, look, you've felt like you were abandoned in the past, and you've committed to yourself you'll never do that to anyone. So you're holding on to things that are harming you because you're still hurting from feeling abandoned in the past. And you don't want to inflict that on anyone. However, you're inflicting additional harm on yourself and you're calling it loyalty. That's not loyalty. That is dishonoring yourself.
Yes.
And if you believe that your loyalty is such a prize, then why are you giving out the prize to people that are throwing it on the floor? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like really being that adamant about this journey, being willing to look at yourself and be honest and say, yo, you tripping. You don't make no sense right now. This ain't a good thing. And not saying it in a harsh way,
Yeah.
with love, assessing ourselves. So we realize, wait a minute, I'm hurting myself when I do this. I have to let it go. And granted, this was a pattern that I lived by for most of my life. It's relatively recent that I'm like, oh no, I'm not sacrificing myself for nothing. You know what I mean? Ultimately, I've come to this place where I've removed sacrifice from my life. I've decided that either I'm choosing to put something down, I'm choosing to let something go because I want to, because it's for my benefit. Maybe it's for the benefit of my children, it's for myself, but not where, oh, I'm giving up things and now I'm a martyr in some shape or form because, oh, woe is me, I had to give up that thing. It's like, no, I'm in control of myself. I'm in charge of my life and I'm empowered to put things down that do not serve me or to give up something because I see a greater benefit in the future, you know? But it's like really being able to look at ourselves and assess what is harmful. Are we hurting ourselves?
Yep.
Because the pain that we feel is self-inflicted. And I mean, ultimately, some people say things, people do things to us, and it's like, you know, we don't like it and it does hurt us. However, if we felt like we were the greatest thing since sliced bread, truthfully, what they did wouldn't even bother us.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's always an opportunity for us to maybe cut some people off, let some relationships go that are not healthy, but also for us to examine ourselves and see what kind of thought patterns we're having about ourselves or what kind of healing needs to be done. What old story do we have to let go? Because that's typically where that pain is stemming from. Some old lie that we believed and we still carrying around. Let it go because there is so much more and greater things beyond it. So let that stuff go.
Yeah, you hit me with that one because it's like when you take that assessment of yourself, because it's not more so about the things and the people outside of you. It's like you said, you were big on loyalty. You got to ask yourself if you're so loyal and then you feel like the people around you, like it's like, well, where's the reciprocity? Then you have to ask yourself, you have to really ask yourself some questions because if you're observing all this outside of you, the disloyalty outside of you, you got to ask yourself, okay, what about me is disloyal? Like, am I being disloyal to myself? Like, what is going on with this picture here? Because I pride myself on my loyalty, but it's not being given to me. So now I need to make an assessment of myself first and foremost because my outside is not reflecting who I say I am.
Right.
And so with that, you have to ask yourself, where am I being disloyal to myself? I'm priding myself on being there for other people, riding for them through whatever. But it's like, what about me? You gotta ask yourself, like, what about you? Like, are you getting the short end of the stick? Like, where's the reciprocity? And that's when you begin to start subtracting. And then you go, but first you gotta look within and see where you're not being loyal to yourself, and 10 times out of 10 it's because you're not being loyal to yourself because you already don't self-sacrifice yourself for the sake of these other people that are around you. And now you put yourself on the back burner, and now all of a sudden you expect for something to be given to you that you're not even giving to yourself. Your loyalty should lie with you first. That's first and foremost. So when your outside world is not reflecting what you say you are, then that means that something is not right on the inside. And that's when you start to ask yourself questions and you go within and ask, okay, now is this Is this serving me? Is this situation I'm in serving me? Are these people around me serving? Because I'm pouring into them. It's like I ain't getting nothing back. So then you have to revert all that attention that you giving and pouring into other people and put that back into yourself. That means letting them go. And it doesn't matter how they may feel about it. You could have been rocking with this person for 10 years. But how long are you going to be disloyal to yourself by holding on to what no longer serves you? And I was watching something earlier today, and they were saying something about you got to look at yourself as a garden. And so if your garden is clean, you're not finna allow no weeds and thistles to grow in your garden. And so that's how you got to look at your outside environment and the people that you have around you. Are these people some weeds? You got to ask yourself that.
Yes. Yes.
Really, because if you want your garden to flourish, that means you're going to have to cut the weeds out.
Yes. Yes, that's for sure. That is for sure. I mean, it's like, yeah, that's a perfect analogy, because that is exactly what it is. We got to tend to our own garden and really be willing to examine what's going on around us. I mean, I grew up in the hood. I'm from the projects, born and raised. I don't live there now, but I had to accept at a certain point that so many of my thought patterns are from that environment. Like, that's where I come from. And there's a certain paradigm, certain mental traits that are inherent to those environments. So it's like, in the past, I used to smoke a lot of weed. That was from the environment. That's where everybody smoked a lot of weed. Yeah, I had a job, but that didn't make me a big shot, but it felt like it, because a lot of people wasn't working, doing nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah, I had some dreams. So that made it seem like, oh, okay, but are you pursuing them? You know what I mean? And it's like, certain things were the status quo. I was a teenage mother. Not my proudest moment, but it was normal where I come from. You know what I mean? So it's like so many things that were instilled in me as normal just because of the environment that I was in. And as I began to really just grow and transform and want more out of life, and deciding that, okay, I'm going to go get what I believe is for me, I really had to confront so many of these thought patterns, so many of these beliefs. And I realized it's not only me. I'm, a product of this environment, and how we can be products of our environment, and how the people we surround ourselves with are influencing us. And oftentimes we struggle to accept that. We like, oh no, I'm an individual. I'm not, influenced by these people. However, there is really this exchange of energy that's always going on. So people rub off on you. Whether you want to accept it, whether you think it's true or not, they do. Their mannerisms begin to rub off on you. There's also like this telekinetic psychic connection that we have between people. Whether, some people is very strong. Maybe you got a good friend and you guys thought the same thing. You regularly think the same thing, or things of that nature. However, if you're in certain environments, those people's thoughts are hitting you. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's so much going on, that not that we have to be afraid of it or so aware of everything, but really accepting that sometimes we have to remove ourselves from certain places because they are having an impact on us that is not healthy. And so that's what I had to do, which was very hard for me, because there's something that I used to call it hood love. I'm like, don't nobody love you like the hood love you. Because no matter how much I moved around throughout life, moved to different places, when I went back to the hood, it was like just all love. You know what I mean? But then I started calling it the vortex, because I'm like, yo, you got to go in, visit, and get out, because it will suck you in. Next thing you know, you're like stuck there. You know what I mean? And not to say I was getting stuck. I had a house to go back to elsewhere. But it's like you could feel this pull, like you don't never want to leave. And it's like, okay, really beginning to assess the impact it had on me. Like, these are real feelings I actually was feeling and experienced. And I had to accept, okay, you need to limit the time that you're in this environment. When you go in the environment, you got to have a plan. All right, I'm leaving at 7 o'clock. If you got to set your alarm, do that, because your susceptibility is to get sucked in. And it's like, I mentioned all that to say that those people or the environment was not necessarily seeking to harm me, but it was harmful to me to be there for an extended period. And so I had to be willing to let go of the attachment that I had to it. And don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, my family is still in the hood. I still love them. I do still visit, but I had to change my relationship to it. I had to accept this is not good for me because I
Mm-hmm.
will get sucked in. You know what I
Yep.
mean? I will get sucked into it. I am susceptible, so I need to be alert and acknowledge that, yeah, I'm calling it love, but something about it ain't exactly love that's going on here because it's going to hurt me if I let it, So, really, just being able to let go of whatever it is that is not to our benefit. And it's not always easy, but
Mm-mm.
it really is about us committing to ourselves. Our main responsibility in this life is to ourselves, to fulfill our goals, to live out the dream that's inside of us, and ultimately to be our best self. And anything that's preventing us of that, we have to be willing to let it go. Otherwise, we're harming ourselves. So it's like, do you love yourself enough to let go of what is necessary? And that's ultimately what it really comes down to.
Yeah. So it's like with the self-discovery journey, it's like when you really do this journey, like those attachments to your past or your environment, it's nothing to, just sever them. It's not saying that you can't, go visit, but it's like your time there is limited because it's like you said, your environment, that's where everything starts. Like that's your stomping grounds. That's where you come from, but that's not who you are. That's just where you got your start here on this earth. But it's like you said, when you're around your environment, the same old things going on. And if you're constantly in that, you haven't stretched yourself, you haven't gone outside of where you are to visit different places, to be around different people, all you're confined to is the same old people with the same habits, thoughts, and other things. And it's like just being in the room with people, like if you was in 6 feet, you can feel someone else's aura. So now you taking in other people's thoughts and their energy. But get so when you finally choose to walk the self-discovery path and you want to discover who you are, that's when you will be more aware of your surroundings and more so what's going on inside of you. Because while you do have an environment that's around you, who are you outside of this environment? Because the environment is not you. Yes, being in it, you're gonna pick up some of the habits and stuff like that. But when you really walk this path and you stretch your mind, you say you want something different, and that means you have to love yourself enough to discover what's gonna make you happy. Because if you think just being in the same stagnant environments and then now you're walking around and you're frustrated because you've been in this environment for so long and you see the things that's going on around you and you want better for yourself, you start to develop all types of emotions. You start to resent the people that are around you. Start to regret being in connection with certain people, and that's only because you're going against yourself. But like I said, when you on this self-discovery journey, you're mindful of the environments that you in. So who you used to be, that's who you used to be.
Right. Right.
that that person that you used to be, yes, it helped you to get to where you are today. But that's the only time you should ever be thinking about your past or whatever, only to get back the lessons that you got from the past. But it's like when you go within yourself and then you really want to discover who you are, what drives you, what makes you happy, and you think about the things that you want to do beyond your current circumstances, then that means assessing like what's going on, what do I need to cut out, who do I need to cut out? Because like you said, the love was in the hood, but it's like, is this love growing me?
Mm,
Like when you're on this journey, you're here for your own personal growth and your
right.
soul evolution. Like, is this evolving me? Like I'm doing the same old thing and it's like repeat. It's like you got to ask yourself, what do I really want?
Right.
Because
Right.
mom and them, they've been here all their lives and stuff, and they may be content with where their life is at. They may want this for themselves, but does that mean that you have to stay there? You got to ask
Right.
yourself, hey, mama's content with this, daddy's content, my family, they good here, but is this what I want? Because
Right.
when you're on that journey, you start to venture out and expand your mind and, take in new things. You got to really sit with yourself and like, man, is this the life that I want for myself? So then it's like, as hard as it may be to sever those attachments, like I said, it takes big courage
Yes.
to actually, it's like you're not, you know, you can't cut out being family, but it's like for you, your own well being, you'll be willing to cut your family off. Like, look, I love y'all, but this is what I need. This is where I see myself going. And it's like you said, when you stay in these environments, you're really sacrificing yourself and your growth. Because, like you said, it's like this pull. It's like
Yeah.
the people and the familiar things have a pull on you. Because it's like people can feel when you're scratching yourself or when you're growing or you outgrown them. So they want to still like pull you back in to keep you familiar. But it's like when it's time to go, when it's time to do new things, you ain't holding on to nothing. And
Right.
sometimes you have to allow yourself to just mourn, severing those attachments and, just saying, this is the life that I want for myself. I love y'all, but hey, I gotta go.
That's for sure. I mean, when you're ready to spread your wings and soar, you ain't gonna let nothing hold you down. You like, I've been held down long enough. No, thank you. So it's like it's really about getting to that point in yourself.
Yes.
Something so important that you mentioned too was like we're not our environment. We are not our environment. We're not the situations that we've experienced in life. We are so much more than all of that. And it's like we're born whoever we are, whoever God made us to be, our essence. And it's like, how do we find who that is? And
Mm-hmm.
it's only by peeling off all these layers, which ultimately is this process of letting go.
Yep.
Because for myself, I used to say, oh, I was a teenage mother. Oh, I didn't finish college. Oh, now I'm a single mom. I always been a single mom. And it's like I had to get to a point where I'm like, you're wearing those things like a badge, like they're your identity. Is that who you are? I had to start asking myself, who am I? You're more than just these kids' mother. Like, and the tone that you're saying that in, it doesn't sound happy. Like, you know what I mean? Is that something that you're carrying around like a burden? It's like, who are you? And so, really starting to peel off those layers. Okay, yes, I did go through this experience in life, but that's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Who do I want to be? Am I that person? What kind of things do I like? And again, like going back to loyalty, I was saying I prided myself on loyalty, but what I was doing was not loyalty. It was some distorted, self sacrificial way of me finding my value in letting people mistreat me. Like, that's what it was. And I was only able to get to that truth because I allowed myself to peel off the layers, letting go of certain perceptions I had and getting to the core of it. And the only way that we can accomplish true healing and get to the root of what's really going on with us is by letting certain things go.
Mm-hmm.
Letting go of the patterns that allow us to sit by while people mistreat us.
Mm-hmm.
Letting go of some of the hurt feelings that we're holding on to that happened way back yonder. Like, that's old. It's not happening to us right now. So why are we still holding on to the pain? And so often that pain and that trauma is so familiar to us that we
Mm-hmm.
don't want to let it go.
Yep.
And I mean, that sounds, as I say that, it's like, really, why would we do that? But we all have done that
Mm-hmm.
because it's so familiar. We feel somewhat comfortable in the pain because we know it. Oh, look what happened to me. And ultimately, it's an excuse for us not to have to fight for our life or fight for our dreams or fight,
Yeah.
to reach the stars. And these are some of the main things that we do have to let go of because joy and gladness are our birthright. And
Mm-hmm.
anything standing in the way of it, we should be willing to like slay that dragon off with its head. You know what I mean? Let go of those monsters that are lurking in our minds and haunting us, so to speak, because we're the ones that can set ourselves free. And
Yep.
on this self discovery journey, it is about being willing to go inside into those dark places. But usually we got so much baggage piled on it that we don't even know what those places look like. And so
Yep.
this is really a process of cleaning house,
Mhm.
letting go of some of that old stuff as you become aware of it. It's not something for you to be overwhelmed by. Oh, I got to let go of all this stuff. Let me clean out my mind. It's like, no, you just have to commit that you are going to live your best life. You're going to pursue it, whatever that means, and allow divine guidance to lead you on the process. And as we commit to these things, then we become more aware of the things we're doing that are hurting ourselves. Step by step, little by little, gradually, you begin to see yourself a little more clearly so that you can take this empowered stance and let go of some of the things that are not to your benefit.
Yeah.
So it's a process.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking, you said something about like the self-sacrificing, and it's like we want to hold on to all this baggage because it's like really a cop out for us having to deal with our own stuff. And it just made me think about the savior complex that a lot of us have. A lot of us have this savior complex that we got to save the world, we got to save everybody around us. We're needed. We got to help our
Yeah.
family, we got to help our friends and stuff. And we take on all this responsibility and all these roles. It's like you said, we got mama. Whether you're on your job, whatever the case may be, you look at yourself and you got all these titles, these roles, and you take on that as your identity. And so with that, those titles, you got to take on the baggage and everything that comes with that. So now you have all this baggage, you trying to save all these people, and you ain't even paying yourself no attention. The focus that you should have been putting inward is now on everything outside of you. So now it's like when you get to this point where you know that you have this inner knowing that it's time to do some subtracting. You got to, let some stuff go. Now it's like a push and pull for you to do that because now you've made this your crutch. You
Mm.
wanted to be needed. You felt like you was Jesus Christ and you had to save everybody.
Yeah. Yes.
Who needed you. And it's like, well, what happens if, I do this and there's other people and how they, choose to live their life and their fate is not up to you. So a lot of the things that we put on ourselves, the baggage, the emotions, is really self-inflicted. And I
Mm.
know a lot of people like to, you know, put the blame outward. And
Right.
not to say that, people don't do things, but the things that people do to you, it's more so what you allowed them to do to you. Because
Right.
the thing, you have no control over what other people do or what they say to you. And 9 times out of 10, it's not even about you when they do these things. It's more so about how they do themselves. And so now you taking upon yourself to, now that you don't taking on their baggage and everything, and now when you're not getting the reciprocity and nothing, you're not getting poured back into, now you're playing the victim. And that's
Yes.
even more baggage, but it's like, when are you going to take responsibility and accountability for yourself and what you allow? Because this is your journey. And when you walk this self-discovery path, you're not here to be no one's savior.
Right.
The
And
self
we can't.
No, the self-discovery journey is just that. It says it in the name. Self-discovery. And so that
Yes.
means when you go on this journey, now you got to deal with your own baggage. Because like you said, it's like a cop out when you're dealing with other people's stuff and you want to be the savior. You doing all this to focus on them, so you don't even have to focus on the baggage that you got within yourself. It's
Mm.
always easier to focus on someone else's baggage or their trash or whatever instead of just focusing all that inward. Because then when you're left to deal with yourself and be with yourself, most people don't even know what to do with themselves. That's why they
Mm.
constantly go out. They're always in type of mess, or they're in this person's business, or they feel like, I'm just here to help out. I just love helping people. Do you
Right.
love helping people, or do you love running from yourself?
Mm. Wow. That's
Do you,
deep.
do you
That's real deep.
not feel like you're worthy of the things that you're trying to give because you're so easy to give out and give that you're not getting any reciprocity? You got to ask yourself, like, do you even feel worthy of being around people that, will give you that reciprocity because you're upset that you're not getting it from people. But do you feel like you even deserve that? Because if you do, that means you will start subtracting and you will start letting go the people, places, and the things that are no longer serving you and giving you that reciprocity because now you stepped into your self-discovery journey. You know yourself, you're discovering yourself. Now you know what you deserve. You want to be in the environment that feeds you, the environments that help you to grow. But yeah, it takes courage.
Yes. Wow. You said so much. I mean, that whole savior complex, I know it well. Like, I know it well. And I really had to accept that, yes, I do want to help people. I genuinely do have a heart to hurt, to help, to hurt people. What am I saying? To hurt myself, it was. But how does that fit? And what parts of this savior complex do I have to relinquish? And ultimately, what I came to learn is that savior complex ain't nothing but a symptom of some inner turmoil. Like, that's it. Because from a place of wholeness, we know that we can't save nobody. So if you think you can save somebody, that means you got some inner work and some self-worth issues that's going on, and you really need to examine it. Examine yourself, examine where that's coming from, because that only comes from a distorted perception. So it's like, we can't save nobody. And that is very, very clear to us from this place of wholeness and on this self-discovery journey, because you come to realize can't nobody save you. So you can't save nobody. And that doesn't mean you may not want to, but ultimately, the best thing we can do for somebody else is to be our best self and shine so bright that they inquire, like, how you doing this? Then they've opened the door for you to share the information. But even at that point, they still got to do it themselves.
That's right.
So if you feeling like you got that savior complex, you need to go somewhere, be still by yourself, and really start to analyze where that's coming from, because it's not coming from a healthy place. And granted, that doesn't mean that you can't genuinely want to help people, but that's not the way to help people. All this self-sacrifice, that is very distorted, and it's ultimately self-mutilation. So that is like you're saving others at your own detriment. It's completely off balance. And ultimately, you're not saving anyone, because you're harming yourself and giving everybody else the wrong message. Showing them that it's okay to treat you like crap. And that ain't it. Additionally, something else you mentioned was about blaming. And I have really done my due diligence to like revamp my whole mindset about blaming. I can't stand blaming. When people are around me talking blaming, I can't stand it. And that's because I had to get to that place within myself, because I had this victim mentality. And not to say that I wouldn't get done what I needed to get done, because, I've always been a go-getter, but that was because I had to be. As a single mom, I have to get these things done. I have to provide. And so, I didn't know for a long time I had a victim mentality. But ultimately, it came to this place where I can't pursue my dreams because I got to do this, or I can't, go after what I want because I have to take care of the children. It has to be all about the children. And then, once I really began looking in the mirror, it's like, that ain't nothing but a victim mentality. And it's blaming. You're blaming the fact that you're not going after what you want on your circumstance. Or on, the card that was dealt to you. And ultimately, blaming is one of the most disempowering things that we can do to ourselves. And that's why I can't stand blaming. Because I'm like, God gave us the power. We got the power. We got the power to go and create the life of our dreams. We have the power to envision whatever we want our life to look like. And we have the wherewithal to go and make it a reality for ourselves. So blaming, all that does is hand our power away to somebody else. It says, oh, I can't do it because of them, or I can't do it because of this, which is a lie. That is one of the greatest lies of the adversary. Anything making you think that you can't do something is not true. because
Yep.
you can do it. And maybe you can't do it to the full capacity that you desire, but you can take a step in that direction and begin to make it a reality. We can change our mindset. We can begin to plan. We can begin to start doing whatever it is that we desire. You know, ultimately for myself, when I started on this journey, it was, so much healing, so much examining myself. And then I realized, okay, I'm a speaker. And so I had to look at myself, and God was like, okay, you're a speaker. What do speakers do? And it was very simple. They speak. So start speaking. You know what I mean? And so to me, that was like, all right, start going live on Instagram. Like, I had to work with what I had. I didn't have no platform. I didn't have speaking engagements. People are not calling me to go speak for them. But it was clear, okay, I'm a speaker, then I need to be speaking. How do I do this? Whatever ideas came to mind, I just began doing it, posting
Yep.
videos. You know what I mean? So we always have the capacity to begin taking the steps in the direction that we want to go, as we're honest with ourselves and remove that blame. Remove the I can't, because ultimately that's blame too. Why can't you?
Yep.
You know, if you ask yourself that question, why can't you? I guarantee you'd start pointing at something. Oh, it's because of this, or oh, it's because of them, which ultimately is blame, and it's completely disempowering. We are empowered. We do have
Yep.
the capacity for whatever it is, no matter how impossible it seems, because, like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. So it's like brick by brick, piece by piece, thought by thought, action by action. And as we really take this empowered approach toward ourselves, it helps us to start to examine the places where we are blaming, or where we are speaking against ourselves, or where we have these limiting beliefs that are disempowering us. And those are opportunities for us to let those things go, because they do not serve us. All they're doing is blocking you from your best life.
Yep. And with that, when you just let go of that savior complex, you don't have that need, and you realize the only person you need to be saving is yourself. And by you saving yourself, that allows other people to save themselves, because you can't get to where you're going if you're trying to hold on to everybody else and all that they got going on. It's like they pulling you back, they wearing
Yeah.
you down. So it's like, once you release that, you will have so much space, you'll have so much freedom. It's like a weight will be lifted off your shoulders. And it's not even, you can't even blame it on them and say it was them, because that was a self-imposed weight that you put on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're focused solely outside of yourself and the people around you and your environment, you're not focusing on the inside, your inner world, and what really should be, your driving force, because you're so outside focused. But as you start to release those people, release them with love, then you start to release the thoughts and the emotions and the attitudes that's attached with that as well. But it takes you doing that first, because all of it is really stemming from the beliefs that you have about yourself, the habits and stuff that you picked up along the way that you haven't unlearned. And it's like you said, it starts with our environments, especially when we're growing up. We get conditioned on how to think and how to move in the world. And we don't ever really have that time to just be ourselves and know who our true selves are. We have like an inclination of who we are, but we hide it so much because still in that people pleasing phase with that savior complex. So I have to be this, so I got to sacrifice myself. I'm not that important. But you got to ask yourself, why do you feel like you're not important? The things that you give to other people, why do you feel like you don't deserve that in return? And the things that you give people, why do you expect other people to give it to you?
Mm.
Because the same thing, the same energy and time that you're giving out to them, you could give to yourself. But you put
Right.
so much attention and power outside of yourself that when it's time to sit and deal with you, you feel like you don't even have the strength to do it. And it's
Mm.
like, you got to look at, you really have to get honest with yourself. And you stress that all the time, because to walk this path, it takes honesty, real, raw honesty. For you to feel like you can do this for other people, and then you neglect yourself, and then you looking around like, where is everybody?
Mm-hmm.
The very person that you need is standing right there with you. It just takes you to open up their door and say, you know what? I gotta drop everything else. The only baggage that I have room for is my own. And even with that, I can only handle that much. And
Right.
by doing that, you take control of your life. You become your own hero. And becoming your own hero, that inspires the people around you to become their own hero because you
Yes.
can't save them. They can only save themselves. And
That's right.
we're going
That's
to
right.
get to wrap this thing up because we're at the hour mark. But this conversation, it was really touching. I feel
Yes,
like,
it was a powerful one.
yes, it was very needed, especially with the week that's been ahead of us and everything that's been going on. But we just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Whether you're going to catch the playback, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like the video. And, drop a comment. Let us know that you're here with us. We want you to join the conversation. If there's any topic you want us to touch on, feel free to put it in the comments. We're always open to, having conversations. So we thank everybody for
Yes.
tuning in. LJ.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And remember, it's up to you to release the old stuff so you can make space for the new. So, this is your best life, and only you can save yourself. Only you can be the hero of your journey.
That's right, y'all.
All right,
All right.
talk to you next time.
See y'all.
Peace.